Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yes, I can. Thank you so much for coming on the platform. I really appreciate you.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm sorry I'm a couple minutes late today.
Oh no, it's okay. Um, like I say, I'm really looking forward to this interview. I apologize for the mishap last time. I'm in East Africa, so we had a little technological difficulty, but
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so honored that you thought of me and, of course, no problem. You can't control technology. Obviously, it's got a mind of its own frequently. So, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm so glad to chat.
definitely, definitely. For the viewers who may not recognize you, let them know who you are, where you're from, and definitely what you do.
So, my name is Michelle Bossy, and I am a filmmaker and a theater director. I'm also a professor, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I also work in New York City.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Now I can ask you to, yeah, being on the west, the east, that sounds funny. You doing what you love to do. People dream of being able to, do that as a career. So let me
I
see.
feel very lucky, but also, it's a challenging life too. I mean, I think there have been a lot of ups and downs in this industry, and it's been challenging with the strike. I feel like we're still kind of eking our way back to getting back to work. And also, I think it can be challenging. Here's my little puppy on my lap. Um, just freelance life in general, I think, can be very unpredictable. So, a lot of being in this industry is trying to fortify yourself and figure out how to remain positive and hopeful and keep moving forward because it can be very uncertain.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. A lot of the consumers, we take it for granted, the things that, the people that make our favorite films or plays or, different creative projects that we love so much that keep us entertained, the things that they have to do to keep cranking those things out. And you mentioned the strike. For the viewers who may not know, what exactly was the cause of the strike, and is it everything resolved now, or is it kind of still?
Well, the strike negotiations have happened. A big So all of the unions went to the negotiating table trying to figure out how they were going to move forward. There's a lot of variables now that weren't present in the past, like streaming services. So there was a renegotiation with what actors, directors, and writers were being compensated for their work on streaming services, and then how residuals would work. And then there was also a big question about what was going to happen with the more prevalent um, AI presence in our industry too. So like, for instance, do producers, studios, um, services, streaming services, all of it have the right to use actors' likenesses, and how could that be used with AI, and or were they able to replace actors altogether, using AI as well? I'm not probably the best person to explain it because I'm not a member of the DGA, and that's the union that represents directors. So I was not as privy to it, but certainly belong to theater union for directors, and I believe in unions. I believe in the need for them. So, you know, um, I think there was a way of negotiating it that felt like acceptable to both parties, but because we weren't working for a while, um, over 6 months, it's a lot of things have changed, right? Like, so there were a lot of shows getting greenlit or like being renewed, and now um, that's being pulled back. And then I think because of that happening, things, opportunities that were coming different artist ways have been pulled back as well. So just the way it is currently. But I think things are supposed to pick back up in the next few months. I'm hopeful that that is what happens.
Yeah, I know the fans is hopeful as well. I appreciate you taking out the time to touch on that. Now I have to ask you, when did you develop this passion for like film and theater? Is this something you wanted to do since you were little, or did you kind of develop, a passion for it later in life?
No, I've been doing work in theater since I was a kiddo. I started when I was 10 years old and I was a musical theater actor. I was part of a theater company in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I grew up called the Rainbow Company, and it's a children's theater organization. So that was pretty amazing to have that as an outlet. And I did plays in school as well. And then once I got out of undergrad, I moved to New York City and I worked for a theater company called Primary Stages. So I did a lot of producing for that theater company that was an off Broadway theater. And then came to film a little later on. So, a lot of my friends were writing for film and television, and I made my first film almost 8 years ago. So that was very exciting and something I never thought I could do, and I really gravitate towards that as well.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds amazing. Now I have to ask you, since it's like you had the opportunity to perform, direct, produce, you teaching, do you have a preference? And what is there a significant difference, going into all those different roles?
Well, I'm not interested in being an actor anymore, so I feel like there are people who are much more comfortable on stage and in front of the camera than I am, although I admire actors immensely. It's just not the path that I'm on anymore. I still sing, like, around the house, or I mean, I still really will always enjoy that. Um, and I feel lucky that I was an actor once because I have the perspective. I can bring that into my directing work. I definitely see myself as a director first and foremost, and the teaching is all an offshoot of my work as a director. And then the producing has been just a necessary part of my career. So, certainly when you're a young director, no one is going to hand you a bucket full of money and say, "What is your vision?" You have to really show people what you believe in, the kind of work you want to be doing. And producing has been something I've found myself doing more and more. I feel really comfortable doing it, but I love I love directing first and foremost, and in either medium, you know.
Okay, okay, that's cool. Now, in terms of teaching, um, I guess is it like just in the classroom type of setting, and or is it hands-on or a little bit of both? And what exactly do you teach? Is it strictly directing or a few other aspects?
My teaching is mostly at a university level, so um, I teach for a few schools. I teach for NYU, UCLA, Columbia, and Syracuse. And almost all of those universities are in person, which is a gift. I think that's ideal, and in the classroom. Although I've always believed in mentorship, and I had some amazing mentors when I was coming up. So, frequently I'll have students come shadow me on set, or they'll come into the rehearsal room. I have, a play that I'm working on where a former student of mine is my associate director on that play now, or um, people who've come and worked as production assistants or assistant directors even. So it just depends. It really depends on like what the interest is of the student, and I think a lot of that is student led. It doesn't always lend itself. Not every project is it right to have a student on board, but I do think that's the way you learn the most is by actually being in those settings. And most of the work I do at universities is really practical work. Like we're gonna we're gonna make a film together, or we're going to work on a play together, that kind of thing, which I find really, really rewarding.
Okay, okay. Now I wanted to ask you about some of your projects. Now, what was your latest project in terms of film? The last one you worked on?
The last one I worked on was a short film called We Regret to Inform You, and that is going to start making the film festival circuit in the next few months. That's kind of a sci-fi, near futuristic project, which is really, and it's a dramedy. The heart of it is something I'm really comfortable with, which is like laughing through your tears. That's sort of my sweet spot of the kind of work I want to be doing. Um, but it had this sort of futuristic, magical element, which was really, really cool. And that was shot in Los Angeles. The latest thing that's out right now that people can watch is my second feature. It's called Nobody's Home, and it's on Apple and Amazon and a few other outlets. And um, that's a psychological thriller that I shot years ago. So it's funny how filmmaking works. You know, theater is very immediate. Once you get into that theater, you know, you have a finite amount of time to see it. And for filmmaking, you work on it, and then 2 years later, the audience gets to see it. So I do have a play that I'm going to be doing in New York City in the next few weeks, and that will also do a bit of a tour. It will go to Scotland this summer as well. So that's those are my projects currently. That play is called A Poem and a Mistake, and it's based on Ovid's Metamorphoses and the Me Too movement.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I mean, getting to travel like that, creating something, and like you say, it may take you 2 years, but to see it come to fruition and get to go to places like Scotland, that's amazing. That's inspiring, and it sounds empowering as well. As have you seen a big change within that 8 year period from your first film till now?
My favorite project, I don't have a favorite project. I think that's like choosing, if I had children, that would be probably like choosing your favorite child. But
Hmm.
um in terms of how things have changed technologically, I've always shot digitally. I'm interested in shooting on film, although I haven't had the opportunity. I think that certainly the way we prepare for projects is really different, right? Like there is this, because of the way we use Zoom now, the way we use video conferencing, it's nice in that way. I see more taped auditions. Um, but then, there is the ability to be in the same room together too. I would prefer, to do things remotely because that allows me to be both in New York and LA. Until we're actually shooting or in the rehearsal room. So that's a great thing, and it allows me to collaborate with people who are all over the country or all over the world. It allows me to have a conversation with you, when we might not have even thought to have done this 8 years ago, or certainly 22 years ago when I started my career. Um, but I think, especially with theater, nothing will ever beat being in the same room together, especially when we're creating art and sharing art with audiences. And I really look forward to, even in filmmaking, being in that live audience with a bunch of other people, seeing how they react to things, seeing how things move them, or um, even in the this thriller, going to the premiere of it and seeing how audiences take in the information, right? So that teaches you the most. Being in the same room together will always be the best thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Those have to be some of the most memorable experiences. Now, I can ask you, in terms of theater, do you have anything going on right now or anything upcoming?
Yeah, so that play that I was mentioning called A Poem and a Mistake is the play that I'm working on right now. I'm also creating a one woman show with two collaborators for my friend Katie Sullivan. She is an actress who's a bilateral amputee, and she's really incredible. Tony Award nominee. And the writer is Caroline McGraw, a writer who has done theater and film with me. I have a few other projects that are sort of more in the works that are, I'm not ready to talk about as at length, but Caroline also wrote a play about nuns called Louder that I'm attached to. And um, so yeah, there's some theater projects in the works that are really exciting. The most current one is going to be done in New York, December 11th. That play called A Poem and a Mistake.
Oh, okay. That sounds very, very interesting. Now, I can ask you, you mentioned working on the East Coast and working on the West Coast. From your perspective, is it any significant difference, like maybe the way you feel creatively, or,
Hmm.
maybe some of the obstacles that you may have to go through economically, or, in terms of getting the type of people you need or the equipment, or is it about the same?
In terms of filmmaking, there are just I know many more filmmakers in Los Angeles, so that has been kind of my home base for filmmaking. But I have made some films in New York City. New York was my hometown for many, many years. I was there for 16 years. Creatively speaking, I think New York will always be my first love. And I do more theater in New York City. And um, I think it's been nice because I do know a good amount of people who now live between two cities or who lived in New York and now have come to LA. So I do have a good community in either place. But it's a constant question of like what is better, what is preferable. And I feel very lucky that I can call both places home and that I can continue to work in both places too.
Yeah, that's definitely a blessing. Now I can ask you, we about 20 minutes in, so I got another interview coming up, but I wanted to make sure for the viewers who want to keep up with what you're doing, the projects that you have, already out available and the projects you have coming up, is it a website or should they just Google it, or what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good about keeping up on Instagram, so I'm at Michelle Bossy Directs on Instagram, and then I have a website too that I keep up pretty currently, michellebossy.com. But always can check out IMDb too. There are links on my website to different things that have already played the festival circuit, or just by Googling films like Nobody's Home and checking out that on Amazon or Apple.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm sure the viewers will do that, and I'm gonna check out some more projects as well. Like I said before, I really appreciate your patience. I appreciate you taking out the time to stop by. This has definitely been an honor.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Tay, for taking the time and for sharing some of the questions with me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your interest.
Definitely, definitely. So until next time, then, take care.
You too. Bye bye.
All right, bye-bye.